Hello again there, YouTube fans. This is the Real Creepy Doll Man here. I'm back with an all-new episode. It is March the 22nd of 2021. Time is now 2:43 a.m. Today's episode is the Real Creepy Doll Man tells another true story. But to make it more interesting, it'll be not on one, but on two dolls. Okay, the dolls that everybody knows, there are more. The Real Creepy Doll Man has said this once already. There is more than one Annabelle. There are now two. Two real Annabelles. One sits in Monroe, Connecticut, and it sits in the home of the Warner's Cult Museum to this very day. Used to be owned by Ed and Lorraine Warner. Since their passing, the Real Creepy Doll Man's going to say something to you now. I'm going to dedicate this episode to the late Lorraine and Ed Warner, who passed away separately but not at the same time. Now, Lorraine passed away, I think, in 2018 or 2019. Ed passed away in 2006 or 2009. So I'm dedicating this episode to the Warners. As you know, Tony Spade is their son-in-law. He now owns everything, including their daughter, Judy or Judith Spade, or Spade or Sparrow. I can't Spado or Sparrow. I can't pronounce the name right, but I'm sure I'll get it right. Now, as you know, there are two real Annabelles, and this is a true story. Now, I'm going to say something. There is a funny catch to this. All this fits together in sort of what we call the missing piece of the puzzle. And I'm going to explain where the original first Annabelle came from versus the one that now sits in the heart of Louisville, Kentucky. There is another spirit claiming to be the real Annabelle. Not Annabelle Hagen's, but another spirit claiming to be Annabelle herself. And this spirit claiming to be 666 years old. Now, could this be a female demonic spirit we're talking to? Or could it be the devil himself? You decide when I tell this ordeal. Now, let's go back to where the original episode, the original story was told. The real story. That all this fits in the timeline. And the Real Creepy Doll Man fits in that timeline. Before the Warner's passing. The Real Creepy Doll Man was very obsessed with the real Annabelle doll. Being obsessed, having a life of obsession, got me in this nightmare to begin with. And that's how I got my real name, called the Real Creepy Doll Man. It's sort of a nickname. It's a name that I got. It is also my nickname. Now let's go back to the point. Now, I'm going to say this to anybody out there that don't believe there is a real Annabelle before we begin telling this true story. If there was a Virginia alive today, instead of asking for if there was a real Santa Claus, and instead of writing a letter, let's say if she wrote it in a text or on maybe a social media site, asking, is there really a real live Real Creepy Doll Man, and does he really come from the city and the state of Louisville, Kentucky? And I can tell her this, if she's alive and well today, it doesn't matter if she's a young girl or as an adult or maybe an elderly woman. Yes, Virginia, there is a Real Creepy Doll Man, and I am from Louisville, Kentucky. And let's make that notice clear that I do come from Louisville, Kentucky. I was born and raised here since about August the 24th of 1973. I'm not going to say who my parents are, but I am probably the oldest of them all here. But you can't judge a book by its cover how old I look, but I don't look as old as some people than others. So they see me the way they want to see me. But let's get back to telling the true story. Let's go back to the beginning. This was told by Ed, or it could have been told by Lorraine. There are two different stories told about the Annabelle doll. And I'm going to kick it off like this. That I believe it was around 1970 or 1971 from Ed's point of view. Because it was told two different ways. Now, I don't know who told the story, was it him or his wife, but somebody has, changed the fact of the true story. Another thing, I think they kept the girl's real name, meaning the two roommates plus the boyfriend, so they changed their names around to protect the identity of the people who are involved in this ordeal because it's a true story. And they also protect their identity, I guess, from the media, the newspaper, you name it, because today, if they were on social media, it would look really bad for them. Another thing is their names were changed to protect their identity from anyone who would slander them, including their landlord. This also protects the identity of the landlord in the apartments they lived in, the street, the state, and the city they were located in. So all this was protected. And also the Warners made a vow not to give the location of any of this to protect the identity of the two girls involved in this because they were both roommates. And plus they were nurses. And they protect where they were working too. So everything has been told. They changed their name to protect their real identity. And I'm going to say it as Ed said it. So I'm going to say it to keep the vibe alive, keep the rhythm going. I'm going to tell it in Ed's point of view. So hopefully if I got it wrong, the fans wouldn't be against me on this. I believe the timeline of the original doll was found in 1970 and 1971. I also believe that the girl, there was two different stories told that she got it for a birthday present and she got it for a Christmas present. I believe the timeline is probably she had a late birthday, could have been in late November or early December, and probably got it as a birthday and a Christmas present at the same time because the Raggedy Ann dolls back in the day wasn't given out until after they came out before Christmas. So these dolls wasn't available until probably after December when they first came out. I say before December, before the holidays. So I would say probably around Thanksgiving they were put out in market before Thanksgiving on Black Friday probably. But let's go back to the issue that they do exist. Now the first one, it's told like this. A mother purchased a doll for her daughter, and the daughter's name was Donna. Now this woman was about 28 or 29 years old. She still loved the fact, and she loved dolls still. Even though she was a grown adult, she loved her passion in dolls. So her mother had bought her a doll without her knowledge, and gave it to her as a Christmas present. Donna was really happy opening it up to gift to find out from her mother it was a doll, and it was a Raggedy Ann doll, a nickel blockers, I believe. The doll was a very large doll, so we would have to guess. I would have to guess it myself. The doll was about 36, 38, or 40 inches in height. The doll was nearly 3 feet tall, probably. As my guess, because it's sort of my guess what the doll would be. But she got a very large doll for a Christmas present. And she was really happy. So what she did was she put it on her couch near the door. When people come in, it would greet the people that came in. Little did they know that their nightmare with the doll just began. And then, as Ed tells the story further, I'm going to tell it just as way as Ed told it, that one day that Donna decided to bring the doll down to have breakfast with both her and her roommate Angie. And Angie was a roommate. Plus, both these girls work in the same hospital, so they were on 2 different shifts at the time. Well, she was joking one day with her friend. She decided to bring the doll down. Said, "Let's take the doll down and have Raggedy Ann eat with us for breakfast." And she did this not one day, but not 2, but she did also on a 3rd day. Bring it down for breakfast on the 3rd day. The weirdest thing happened is the doll's arms levitate and landed on top of the table. Both arms. And in doing this, both the girls were intrigued. Now, one of the girls, I don't know which one it was, either Angie or Donna, said to the other one, there's probably a spirit attached to that doll. So why don't we call somebody, that's in, the psychic business that they called a media that was a psychic, and they brought this person over. We don't know if it was a he or she, but involvement that this person came over to do a seance to find out for sure. There was a spirit attached to the doll, but little did they know, they thought it was a 6, 7, or 8-year-old little girl, and it gave it a name to, both the women, these two young women. It called itself Annabelle Higgins to both them two, and as well to the media person who was telling them that this young girl died where their apartment was. And we don't know how the young girl died, so there could be several ways the young girl had died. But the real one died back before this spirit claiming to be the real Annabelle Higgins. And instead, it was an imposter pretending to be, a little girl. But I will continue this in part 2, because this is not over. We'll continue in part 2 to tell where this ties in with the real creepy doll man as well. But let's go back, and I'll do this in part 2. The real creepy doll man from Louisville, Kentucky tells another true story about where both of the Annabelles come from, is what I will call it. Watch for part 2 coming up after this.